to the Thursday, May 30th edition of the Clemson Dubcast. Summer definitely in the air, 95 or so degrees out there. Not going to be recording many podcasts from the porch probably for the foreseeable future. Also in the air is recruiting, as it always is. Paul Strelo at TigerIllustrated.com has some interesting intel, as always. Today, an update about James Williams, no relation, 6'4" safety from Miami. Brent Venables seems pretty smitten with this James Williams kid. Check it out. It's up on the site right now, along with plenty of other good info from Paul Strelo, including the latest recruiting big board at tight end. Title sponsor of the Clemson Dubcast, Parham Smith Arch & Hole Law Firm in downtown Greenville. They have been with us from the very beginning, since before the beginning, when this was just an idea. Blake Smith has been a good friend of mine for years, dating back to the days when he taught a law class at Clemson with Terry Don Phillips. Also, Brooke Arch & Hold, major Clemson fans. The forte of their firm, which is at 15 Washington Park in Greenville, is medical negligence. They represent patients and their families in medical negligence actions. Also handle all sorts of other personal injury litigation. Free consultations at Parham Smith and Arch & Hold. Give them a call, 864-990-4581, or go to parhamlaw.com. Big supporter of Clemson athletics and now a loyal supporter of the Clemson Dubcast is Harris Flooring America. Based in Anderson, South Carolina, Harris Flooring has been instrumental in a lot of the facilities transformation you've seen on Clemson's campus lately. From the Allen Reeves Center to the McFadden Building to Memorial Stadium to the Neary Center, Harris Flooring has been at the ground floor, pun intended, of all this. Family owned and operated since 1947. The owner, Scott Junkins, big Clemson guy. He employs Clemson folks. And keep in mind, it's not just commercial. Harris Flooring is just as good inside the home and the residential realm as they are with the larger scale commercial stuff. Floor to ceiling design capabilities. Give them a call, 864-642-6183, or online at flooringamerica-anderson.com. All right, let's get to our interview with Abe Reed, the longtime director of equipment for Clemson football. Really interesting sort of behind-the-scenes stuff that some of you folks at TigerIllustrated.com and elsewhere have asked for. Most notably, what's it like to have to ship a bunch of equipment to Dallas for the Cotton Bowl, then back home after Clemson beats Notre Dame, and then back out to San Jose for the national championship. A lot of cool anecdotes there in terms of the logistics of sending two 18-wheelers across the country, then back home, then back across the country, then back home. Not sure if I missed a leg in there. Abe sat down with me over at the Abernathy Boutique Hotel earlier this week. Great place for our conversation. Great place for a lot of you listeners out there to gather after work at Taps Bar and Cafe. The Abernathy is also rolling out a loyalty savings program for 2019. After your third stay, you'll automatically be rewarded with an exclusive offer that can be applied to future reservations for the remainder of the year. 15% off of rooms and 15% off of food and beverage at Taps Bar and Cafe. So go over to theabernathy.com to learn more. Okay, Abe Reed, here we go. Enjoy. Okay, here with Abe Reed, is director of equipment. Is that the official title? Mm-hmm. You don't like equipment manager?
That's fine. Either way.
All right. What are you consumed with in late May this time of year?
Really just getting ready for football camps. I think we're expecting to have a big crowd, the youth camps and the high school camps. So we're doing that, and then we're just kind of cleaning up the equipment room, trying to take last year's stuff, whatever's left, kind of put it on an aisle with some extra stuff in case we need giveaways for various things, and make room for all the new Nike stuff that should be rolling in the next couple of weeks.
The new Nike stuff, meaning all the loads and loads of everything you'll need for the 19 season?
Correct. Socks, gloves, wristbands, cleats, coaches' shoes, everything you see on the sideline for the coaches, staff, practice, all it. It's a bunch of stuff.
And what is that like for you the day that stuff gets here?
When it starts rolling in, it's about 200 boxes a day for about a month.
So it's not a day. When I said when all that stuff gets here on that day, it's just a series of...
Right. It's about a month. I got an email this morning that there's 3 pallets over at Central Receiving that we got to pick up that came in. So I don't know exactly what that is yet because I haven't been over there. But usually it kind of comes, all the cleats will start shipping, then all the gloves will come in, and then sideline shoes, practice shoes. So it's kind of, all the polos are already in the shops downtown, but we haven't gotten any of them
Really?
yet. So
the new designs.
Correct.
Do you have any input into the designs?
Maybe the colorways, but not pretty much everybody. Every school and even the NFL teams has basically the same shirts. They're just different colors with different logos, that kind of stuff. We already, second week in May, we already did our apparel presentation with Nike for the 2020 season.
Really?
Yes.
So they come here and present.
It's really our field service rep. He comes and he has PowerPoint, and we just kind of go through, these polos are for this. This is your early season quarter zip, your late season quarter zip, your heavy jacket, your practice shorts, just travel suits, the whole gamut of stuff.
When did they start doing stuff that far in advance? Has that been common for
Yeah,
years?
it used to be in June, and then probably about 3 years ago they moved it up to May. And then we'll place our orders starting in September and go through probably the second week in November. There's just different windows based on delivery times. So some of that stuff's your early order window is the stuff for the earlier part of the season. The later order windows are like your cold weather stuff that starts shipping October 1st.
I've never seen you appear to be stressed, but I'm guessing there are times of the year and then maybe times on game days that are more stressful than others for you. Can you enlighten on that?
Always the first practice, whether it's in August, at bowl time, the spring, whatever. The first practice is just, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of new people, just trying to get through the day with no major hiccups. Game days, I have really good staff. I got 15 students and one graduate assistant, and Nick Yard's my full-time assistant. I don't like to call him as my assistant, and we work together. And we do a good job of getting everything handled. And game day, the first game, there's always going to be some, I want this cleat instead of that cleat. No matter how much planning you try to put into it, somebody's always going to come up with a change. And then usually by game 3 or 4, we've got it all situated and know what everybody wants, from what color gloves with what jersey and what shoes and cleats and all that kind of stuff. So on game day, my biggest stress is setting up headsets for the sideline, because there's a lot that goes into it, and some of it's a little above my head technically, and some of that stuff, it's computers, so sometimes they're great. You do the exact same setup the next week, and you'll run into an issue, so you just got to troubleshoot some of that stuff. So
you're going up to the press box, taking the headsets up there.
Yeah, so we have one unit that goes on the sideline that's rather large, and then there's a smaller one that goes up in the press box. So we usually help set up the sideline unit, and we have somebody that goes upstairs and does that. So anytime we play in a dome, it always creates issues, because the signals from the headsets, they kind of bounce off the ceiling, and sometimes you get to some dead spots and on the, in the coach's box, and that can create some issues. We were getting ready for the Cotton Bowl, and we'd get down to about the 30-yard line and just go from like 98 down to 70, and then it bounced back up. So there's a bunch of, stuff going on there, and we were stressed, and we were told once people start getting in the stadium, some of that will be absorbed by the people sitting in the seats instead of bouncing around off the seats, and that's what happened. But an hour up to game time, you're still messing around with that. It's not always the most comforting thing. But
so I guess it's been almost 9 years since the game at Auburn, when supposedly the headsets went out. I guess enough time has passed where you can talk about that now.
Well, I think that was the first game that ESPN did where they had, I can't even remember what it was. It's like 3D TV or something. They had a bunch of extra cameras, and they were basically unplugging stuff to power their stuff. And we're just like, we need this. They're just like, well, we need it for the TV. It's like, well, we need it for the coach's headset. So there's always some of that struggle back and forth, and you always find a compromise. But
was that one of the first times they were using the roving camera right above the field, or?
No, they had like on the sideline cart, I think they had like 3 cameras on that one cart.
Okay.
And they were just pulling a lot of power. And we had all our sideline fans as well going because it was an early game. So there was just a lot of power needs and not a lot of power opportunities. So I think that was where that happened.
It's like the second half of that game, right? I think I remember Kevin Steele.
Yeah, I don't remember how long it lasted.
I'm
trying to think. I can't.
That's wild. I've never heard the explanation that ESPN was using the power outlets on the sideline just to be, okay, wow. That's fascinating. All right, so as we sit here in this conference room at the Abernathy, you have come armed with any number of, let's see, Cotton Bowl practice schedule, National Championship practice schedule, and among other things. Is this because you're studying that for yourself, or is this because you're thinking I might ask you about the schedule? Or?
I thought you were going to ask me some questions about when our trucks left to go to Dallas, when they got back, and then when they had to leave to go to Santa Clara. So I brought all that down and made notes of all the text exchanges that I had with my truck drivers going to and from California especially.
Well, let's dig into that, man. That's fascinating. Sports Illustrated, Ross Dellinger, I think, their writer, did a fantastic article on that right before the national championship. And so, let's build on that. So from Clemson to Dallas, back to Clemson, and then back and then to San Jose, going through Dallas to get to San Jose.
Correct.
Was there ever any consideration given to somehow just not coming back and going from Dallas, working it out where they could go from Dallas just straight to San Jose, or no?
Not really, because we had a bunch of practice in between, Cotton Bowl and National Championship game. So the year that we played Oklahoma in the Russell Athletic Bowl is the first year that we took 2 18-wheelers to a bowl game. We basically have one as our game day truck that's kind of standard for the entire season. And we have another one that's hotel/practice truck, and it's got, all our meeting room, computers, server, anything that office supplies, practice scripts, anything the GAs might need. It's got all our field equipment that we use at practice every day. Tim Match brings a lot of stuff for his war room that he has set up at bowl games. And then we have a very young staff. So with that hotel truck, it's not necessarily as bad on games where everybody can drive themselves, but, as we travel to games where everybody has to fly, we try to take a bunch of luggage out there, pack in place, strollers, jogging strollers, food, diapers, the whole gamut of stuff. So we put a lot of that stuff on the practice/hotel truck, and then we just kind of unload it into either a ballroom or out on the floor of the ballroom level, and everybody comes and gets their stuff. And then a couple days before the game, everybody loads their stuff back on the truck that they didn't use.
All right, so that you added the second 18-wheeler for the Russell Athletic Bowl. Mm-hmm. Tell me about what went into, you guys realizing, okay, we need more.
Well, we used to take just our game day 18-wheeler and a 26-foot box truck. And one of the years we went to Miami, we got hit at a couple weigh stations for being overweight, which doesn't take very much in those trucks.
The Ohio State Orange Bowl the year before?
Yeah, I think the one actually in 11, I think we got hit too. But so I just, and I think the year we went to the Russell Athletic Bowl, we took some weight equipment down there too. I was like, well, if we're going to do this, we gotta drop back and punt and figure something out. So we started doing that, and so this year for the Cotton Bowl, everybody had to have their stuff down to the 18-wheeler on December 20th, which was Thursday, and then my truck drivers left with both trucks on the 21st so that they could, give them plenty of time to get out there. Mike Dooley always flies out early with a couple other people from video, and they try to get there the day before the team, and they'll start setting up the meeting room so they're ready to go whenever we get there. First thing we do is our students go change. They get all that stuff so everybody can get situated in their rooms with all their baby supplies. Yeah. And the meeting rooms are pretty much set because we get there and we'll have a team meeting and that kind of stuff. So we go on those trips, have 4 truck drivers at bowl time. During the season, I usually have 3 that kind of rotate amongst themselves based on what their work schedule is and that kind of stuff. And then a few years ago, one of our young bus drivers came on board as my 4th truck driver for bowl games. It's always good to have, 2 in each truck so they can trade off. Just year we went to the Fiesta Bowl, they got some food poisoning somewhere along the way, so it was good that we had more guys that could just kind of switch off and let the other one rest. And then, so after the Cotton Bowl, they left as soon as the game was over, and they were sitting at the loading dock waiting on us when we got back on Sunday, the 30th.
Yeah, y'all spent the night there.
Yeah, we spent the night after the game. They were sitting at the loading dock waiting on us when we got back. So we unloaded both trucks that night when we got back Sunday and stayed till about 11:30, got all the players' laundry washed, got all their jerseys and pants situated, all the practice field equipment went back in the indoor so we could be ready to go. We were off on Monday the 31st so everybody could kind of catch their breath. But that was the day we came in and cleaned game helmets and finished cleaning everything up and then repacked it all Monday. Continued to pack what we needed on Tuesday, and the truck left Tuesday the 1st to head to California. And 3 drivers went out there. We pared down to 1 truck for that game because we only have 1 practice out there and we don't need as much field equipment. And usually the quarterbacks are about the only ones that do a whole lot of individual on that day because it's a regular Thursday practice, a lot of special teams and team stuff. So they're the only ones that have a really fair amount of individual time. Mm-hmm. So, and they, we went out as a team on Friday, and Mike Dooley was out there on Thursday. So our truck got out there, and they left at 2:30 on Tuesday. I checked on them throughout the day. Tuesday, they were rolling through Tuscaloosa about 9 p.m. Wednesday, I checked on them 8:30 in the morning. They were a little west of Abilene and had run into some ice. And by 11 o'clock that night, they were in Phoenix. And then Thursday morning, 11 o'clock here, which, 8 o'clock their time, they were sitting about 150 miles out at a truck stop just waiting to get into the hotel. They were waiting for Dooley and some of the other people that flew out early with him to get to the hotel, so they got some rest and something to eat.
Want to introduce our newest sponsor to the Dubcast. Welcome to Uptown Realty, LLC, locally owned and operated out of Sumter, but also they serve the Eastern Midlands and PD area with the buying and selling of homes, commercial properties, and land. Patrick Enzer, a friend of mine who used to cover Clemson football and work in the sports writing industry. He grew up in Anderson, going to Clemson games, been in Sumter for 15 years. Also a loyal listener to the Tubcast. Uptown Realty offers affordable new housing in the mid-130,000s from a local custom builder. Patrick is the sole owner and broker in charge. Give him a call at 803-983-5660. His website is uptownrealtysc.com. So you mentioned on the 20th you had to have all the stuff ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last practice? Was that on the 20th as well?
It was on the 19th.
19th,
Yeah.
okay. So that was good turnaround time in that case for you guys. But
Right. Yeah, and they didn't leave until about 2:30 on the 21st. But if I try to build a little buffer time in there for myself in case somebody's late, then I can still get it on the truck.
so when they get back from Dallas, you said y'all unloaded everything. How many hours does it take for you guys and how many people?
It was basically all hands on deck. It was my 15 students. The training room has about the same number of students. They helped unload. Some of the recruiting students helped us unload everything, and just kind of everybody got everything back where it needed to go so that Monday they could get in and start repacking everything.
How long did that take?
I left at 11 on Monday night too. So.
Yeah. Okay, you mentioned, the drivers. What's the evolution of that, like how they came to be enlisted to do that? Obviously, they're volunteers. They're just older men around town who...
One guy, Tom Luke, he's kind of the lead on that. He's a retired... trying to think what his... He worked for the city utilities department for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And he's been driving, I want to say, since probably that Russell Athletic Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the other guys that drives with him currently works for the city. His name's Mike Brown. And he's been doing it for a few years, too. So those are usually my two regular guys. And then there's another guy named Ray Lewis. It's a DNR warden. And he's been driving for 3 or 4 years, and he has been just kind of at bowl times, but this year Tom was having some back problems, so he drove to Texas A&M. I think he drove to Boston College. And then Marion's our young bus driver, and he came on a couple of years ago, went to the Fiesta Bowl, and he's a huge Tiger, so he likes it because he gets a way to go to the bowl games, and he gets a hotel and a ticket, so
yeah,
it helps him out.
So they actually sit in the stands?
Mm-hmm. And they usually get like a post-game credential so they can get back to the truck, but they're not on the sideline. But they each get a ticket and hotel and per diem while they're out.
So the most recent one, how did you find him? Like, what's that process like? What was that like?
Tom kind of recruits them.
Okay. So he knows people, and then you just sort of let him, you delegate that to him. Mm-hmm. And they're only, quote-unquote, pay is hotel and a ticket.
And per diem, and then I give him some gear.
Okay. We got plenty of that.
Yeah.
You've been around so long, and we'll talk about that shortly, but biggest snafu or headache or near disaster stories from the last decade plus or two of getting large amounts of equipment from here to far-flung locales and back?
Thankfully, not too many. We have a lot of checklists, and we go over the checklist multiple times.
Uh-huh.
So, pre-game footballs for the quarterbacks got left when the ACC championship game was in Orlando.
Virginia Tech.
Mm-hmm. But that wasn't a big... That's easily overcome. So game footballs, not game footballs, but like pre-game footballs is about the biggest one that's ever really hit of something that got forgotten.
All right. Take us back to that evening inside the stadium when you first learned that the footballs are not in Orlando.
We actually knew the night before.
Okay.
So we were trying to figure out how to next day them here from here to Orlando, and whether or not we could get them on a UPS truck and out the door in time, and didn't work. So we just, maybe take a couple balls from the receiver pregame ball bag. We take a bunch of extra game balls with us. So we have, if it's a rain game, we have 3 different bags of footballs to check in with the officials. So, we usually check in about 14 if it's a day like today where it's sunny and hot. If it's a rain game, we'll check in maybe 36. So we always have that extra built in. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but the person who forgot them didn't feel real good about forgetting them.
So is your immediate reaction in that case, is it to yell and scream, or is it are you a more calm?
Let's try to figure out the solution.
Yeah. So more clinical.
Yeah, the person who, if you leave something, you feel bad enough.
Yeah.
I don't need to pile on.
Yeah.
And then a week later, I'll give you a hard time about it.
At what point, I guess, obviously you want to avoid a call from the head coach on something whether it's something somebody forgot or whatever. What's like the thing you do not want to do, like in terms of that? The thing that could, I guess, draw his attention, just in general, not necessarily Dabo, but the head coach in terms of the equipment room relationship with the head coach.
I think making sure that everybody that works in the equipment room understands that best is the standard, and that while you are a college student, and it's awesome to be a college student, that you're part of something bigger when you work at Clemson football. So to make sure that they understand that best applies to them too, because especially in this day and age of social media, if they do something, it's not just Johnny. It's Johnny that works with Clemson football.
Mm-hmm. So you got here in 98, right?
Mm-hmm.
You went to Houston?
Correct.
Grew up in El Paso?
Yes.
And Alfonso Smith was the one who brought you here? Is that right?
Correct.
Tell me about that.
So I got done at UH in December, and I actually only did this for 2 years as a student at Houston. The first year I started out, we were still playing at the Astrodome. So I was really just helping out on Fridays to get everything over to the Dome and then on game day. And then the second year I was there from August all the way through the Liberty Bowl. I was there, and then I graduated. And my old boss that came in halfway through that year we went to the Liberty Bowl, he was working at East Carolina before he came to UH. And Alfonso was at Memphis. So they had built a relationship there, and we had a coach from UH come to Clemson, Brick Haley, got hired, and it was, Fonz called and said, hey, we're hiring this guy. Can you tell me his size? Is this, just trying to get ahead of it a little bit. And my old boss, James, said, hey, you don't have a job for me, do you? He goes, not unless you want to be a GA. James says, no, but I got the perfect guy for you. So I took the AEMA certification exam in June of '98, got certified, and was out in Phoenix. And it was one of those like, hey, you're my friend. If you tell me this is the guy I need to hire, then he's hired. And packed up my S10 Blazer with everything I had in it, and drove 9.5 hours to Dallas. Spent the night with one of my old roommates there, and then I drove 13 hours from Dallas to Anderson. And I've been here ever since.
It takes 9.5 hours to get from El Paso to Dallas?
Mm-hmm.
Holy smoke. So what was your degree in?
Biology.
Wow. So you just felt a calling, or you just figured you're going to try it out? Is that?
I figured it was a way to come here and pay for grad school.
And you did go to grad? What did you?
I started and I never finished.
Okay.
Because I worked 2 seasons as the GA, and then I got hired in March of 2000 full time. And so I never finished.
The assistant equipment manager,
right,
for working under Alfonso.
Mm-hmm.
And you met your now wife here, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So 98, 3-8, 99, Tommy Bowden. What was that? That was a tumultuous kind of time for Clemson football. What are your recollections of that? Both the end of the West era and then the beginning of the Bowden era.
It was different. I think a lot of it was just, it was obviously that year in 98 didn't go the way everybody was expecting it to. So it was really just kind of keep your head down, do your job, and just do what you're supposed to do. And, you can't worry about the external stuff. And Coach Bowden came in, and it was a little, just practice was different. Everything was different from the way Coach West ran it to the way Coach Bowden ran it.
Obviously, when there's turnover, when you're part of a fired staff and you're like an assistant coach, you're worried about your job. Does the same pertain to an equipment manager and the people under him? Like it was Alfonso. I'm just wondering whether there was worry there that are we gonna be employed?
I don't think back then there was that fear or worry. I think the way that some of that stuff has gone the last 5 years, there might be, some of that, and a lot of that depends on your administration and your relationship with them, I think. But I know there's a lot of coaches that in the last 5 years that have come in and they've stuck with their support staff for maybe the first year, and then they kind of clean house and bring in their own people. So,
what I was thinking before this, the uniform combinations under Tommy, like they changed by the game. Mm-hmm. It seemed like. What's that like for an equipment staff when there's not as much? I guess now it's like pretty much predetermined.
Right. So with that, it's just obviously if you're gonna, the earlier the better that if you're wearing orange on purple or purple on orange or whatever it is. And I like it. I think I like the way we are now. I think it's, I go joke with Coach Sweeney before the first game and just say white pants, right? But I think it means more when you break the orange pants out. It means you're playing for something.
Yeah.
And I think how we started wearing the all purple is a neat story, and it means something. And the guys get excited about it, and they understand what it means to wear the all purple and why we're doing it for that Military Appreciation Day game. It's it's pretty neat, but orange pants or white pants aren't fun to clean, but that's okay.
So, back when they were changing the uniform combinations on a weekly basis, when did you need to know by, and then who would inform you?
I think Coach Bowden would let Fonz know, like Thursday or whatever. A lot of that depends on where you're playing. If you're playing at Georgia Tech or NC State or South Carolina or whatever, somewhere fairly close, you're packing the truck Thursday night after practice. Where if you go to BC or Syracuse, Miami, you're packing it Wednesday after practice or sometimes before practice on Wednesday. We haven't done that too often, but as soon as practice is over, you throw everything on there and get on the road. So, those longer trips, obviously, you would need to know Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then Alfonso left what year?
After 2012, after the LSU game.
Okay. And that's when you took his spot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's rewind. October 13th, 2008. Back then, y'all were in Jervy still, right? It was before the West End Zone.
Yeah, I think, wasn't that our last year there?
Yeah, 2009 was the first year that football operations were in the West End Zone. So you hear that Bowden is out and Dabo is in. How?
I don't really recall.
You don't remember?
No. I think we're just trying to, we're just trying to keep our nose to the grindstone and just do whatever we need to do to finish out that season as best we could.
And I'm trying to think of the beginnings of Clemson's social media sort of prominence came when a young assistant equipment manager named DJ Gordon and a few others, I guess, started having some fun with, I think back then it was Vine, was it? The app?
They had that. He was on that, and then he was also on Twitter at the early stages of Twitter, and he just started Clemson Equipment or Clemson FB Equipment or something like that. Clemson Equipment, I think, is what it was, and he used to just take pictures. And DJ's very talented in a lot of different areas. He his dad was the equipment manager here when Ken Hatfield was here. And DJ went to South Carolina and came here as a GA, and he was an intern. And then when that whole change went down, he was my assistant for however many years. And then, now he's assistant director of football ops and creative media, and he does a really, really good job with he's just very talented. And so he started with the Clemson Equipment Twitter page and would just, hey, this is what we're wearing. Good guys wear white, all that kind of stuff was some of his ideas. And then when Dan got here, he kind of said, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a whole, department that's dedicated to this. It's all going to be under one umbrella. We're all going to have the same message instead of, football having their page and basketball having their page, and just everybody, instead of everybody kind of doing their own things, like, this is our message. This is what we're doing. And taken off.
Yeah. Did you have any, just from your perspective, back when it was just him having some fun during some downtime in the equipment room, did you have any idea that it was something that could become a monster?
Not at all. Not especially to where it's at now, and the people we have working in social media, from the students and everything over there, and it's crazy. Like, my brain doesn't work like that, so I don't think about, oh, somebody would want to see this picture of what we're wearing today. It doesn't even register with me.
You're the guy with the high-pitched yell whose job it is during the Paul drill to, I'm sure I'm not the first person who's asked you about this, whose job it is to lift the football up where one side and the other then bash pads and helmets and all that. How did that come about? Was that under Bowden? Did that start?
We used to run another drill. There was 5 stations, and it was basically just a one-on-one with no running back. And I forgot what that one was called, but they needed somebody to snap the ball, so I would just start at the first set of agile and snap the ball and go to the next one, and just so we get to the 5th one, and I run all the way back to the first one and try not to get run over, and I'm just still that guy.
So it was under Bowden when that started?
Yeah.
Okay. And there was an actual, they made a social media video out of you doing that in the middle of traffic. Am I getting that right? This is a few years ago.
Right. That was another DJ idea. So.
Okay. What was that like for you? I'm guessing that you weren't 100% thrilled about being the center of attention.
No, not really. I'm a kind of low-key, behind-the-scenes guy. If people know my name on game day, it means something went wrong, and that's not what I want. So my wife does the talking for our family. So.
All right. Game days. Take me through the moment you wake up to the moment your head hits the pillow at the end of the day.
On night games, I try to sleep as late as possible. When we're on the road, that's a little easier than it is at home. When we're at home and it's I almost treat it like it's a regular work day. I get up. I might not leave the house at 7:30, but I'll leave by 10:30, and I get here, and our students are here usually about 5 hours before the game, and I'm usually here a couple hours before them. And a lot of that's just, I know everything's ready, but if something goes wrong, there's one name they're yelling, and it's Abe. So it's a little bit of anxiety. Just, all right, everything's good. Even though I know, I still just want to make sure. So I just kind of come and hang out in my office, do a little bit of stuff until about, usually our students get here and they go straight to the stadium, and I'll usually roll in a little bit after them in the locker room at the stadium, because we pretty much get everything set up on Friday, other than pulling jerseys and setting the sideline. Even all the coaches' stuff's done on Friday afternoon. So, and then, game day is hopefully pretty calm and not a whole lot there. And then post game, it's, especially at home games, trying to get everything off the sideline, into the truck or into the locker room or wherever it needs to go without it getting stolen, is always a challenge. Trying to get our students to kind of man their positions and make sure there's no helmets laying on the ground, or, if it's on the sideline and it's not being attended to, it's going to get gone. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a roll of tape, somebody's going to take it.
So that's one of the sort of maybe negative byproducts of having all the people being able to go on the field is they're trying to find souvenirs.
Yeah. And, a lot of the older players, they know that, hey, give Abe or Nick or somebody your gloves to take them inside, because if you're wearing them, they're going to get peeled off of your hands.
So you don't do the team hotel thing the night before the home games? You stay home? Because I guess there's nothing that you need to do.
Usually we're finished kind of cleaning up game prep stuff or whatever. They'll go game preps at the stadium. They'll go back across the street. I make sure everything's situated in the stadium, locked. We'll gather all their game prep stuff, start that in the wash machines, and flip that into the dryers. And there's really no need for me to go Fridays. They go and eat, go to the movie, and then have a team meeting with the coach and chapel and that kind of stuff. So not a whole lot at the hotel for me to do. And I usually get in, fairly early and make sure everything's good to go. And then after the game, depending on if we have 2 home games in a row or if we're going on the road the following week, since we moved to the Reef Center, every game is a road game. So Thursday night, we pack a 26-foot truck, drive it across the street, unload it all on Friday. And then after the game, some of the sideline stuff will stay in the West End zone, and we'll come back and get it Monday because it won't all fit on the 26-foot truck. Then we drive. Nick collects all the pants and jerseys, checks them all off, all the jerseys before he goes across the street, and he'll put those in the golf cart and drive across the street and get them going because those wash cycles are almost 2 hours long. And then I'll be in the coach's locker room. GA and students are in the players' locker room, packing bags and all that kind of stuff. We get everything packed on the truck, drive across the street, unload it all back into the lockers or into the equipment room, and just do laundry. It depends on what our next week's looking like, what time the game is. If we're playing an 8 o'clock kick, I'm not staying there till it's already late enough. So some of that stuff will wait and finish washing on Monday.
So the Reeves Center being there has made it easier for practices, but not for games. Correct.
But the inconvenience 7 times a year is outweighed by the facility as a whole. And then, when we were at the West End Zone, if we had a cleat blowout at practice, that player might miss a whole period of practice with us driving back across the street to get him something else. So the inconvenience of game day is outweighed by every other day. My space is unbelievable. We got a loading dock, got plenty of room.
Also sponsoring the Dubcast is Tandem Payment, company headquartered in Greenville, South Carolina, and headed up by a Clemson graduate, 2005. The newest program Tandem offers gives business owners an opportunity to eliminate up to 100% of your annual credit card processing fees. The best part, it encourages more transactions inside your business. Plus, you save the typical processing fees you pay annually. Call Tandem today to learn more about how to eliminate your credit card processing fees. Want to learn more? Visit tandempayment.com today. When everything was in McFadden and Jervy, you guys were sharing with all other sports, right?
Right. We were all in the same equipment room. I don't know how we did it.
How big was the equipment room then?
It's probably half of what I currently have.
And what's your current? Do you know the dimensions of your current? Okay.
Yeah.
So any idea how much detergent you use for, after a home game? Like the Notre Dame game, is that the monsoon or whatever game, was that a memorable, just given how dirty everything was, or not?
It really
not so
wasn't
much?
that bad.
Yeah.
I think the game in Charlotte was worse because just the way the field's built. There was more mud under that field than there was here. So, but most of those came pretty clean too.
How has your job, the job of an equipment manager or director of equipment, changed the most in the last, I guess, since you've been doing it?
I think just from a protective equipment standpoint, helmets and shoulder pads, just the technology and the amount of research that's gone into those is unbelievable. It's always evolving, always changing, and it's gotten smaller and lighter. And kind of everything's gotten that way. Cleats are lighter, jerseys are tighter, but have more stretch in them. So, they're harder to put on without shoulder pads than they are with shoulder pads. So just the technology and the amount of research that people are putting into helmet and shoulder pads is I would say, the biggest thing that's changing, and it hasn't stopped.
So how many backup helmets do you have when you at a road game?
We have one of each style and each size. So right now I currently have 8 different styles of helmets available for players to wear, because I put them in what fits them correctly and what they feel most comfortable in. So I have pretty much every helmet manufacturer is represented in the equipment room. Now I have a couple of styles that people don't wear, but it's available. So if somebody's wearing it, we have a backup for that helmet. And then we have just kind of face mask wise, we have just kind of 4 for each helmet. Each style, not each size, because they fit the whole size.
You have backups of everything?
Yes.
Shoulder pads, how many?
Like 4.
Okay.
Because I've been here, I'm going on year 22, and I think we've used the backup shoulder pads once.
And then the talking about the uniform changes over the years, there was, like, the Tiger Paw has both gotten bigger, and it's shifted to the, I guess, proper 1 o'clock.
Right. So when it first got here, it was I think the current size, and they were on the left side of the helmet was at 1 o'clock, and then I guess on the right side of the helmet was like 11, and then it shrunk down, and then we went back to the original size and put them both at 1 o'clock.
What is the biggest, I guess, way that Dabo has impacted this program? What did he bring this program, you think, the most important, whether intangible, that made such a difference?
Well, I think the biggest thing with him is everything he's telling everybody, he lives by that. Like, being a husband and a father is the most important thing. And he changes practice schedules around so that coaches can go watch Edwards games or JV games. He coaches Clay's travel baseball team. He just went on that trip with Will and Drew to watch baseball and basketball, to spend time with his boys.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more than just football, and he lives that. And he never stops thinking about what's the next step to make us better. And he wants everybody else to never stop thinking how to get better. If you see something and you think it might help us be better, let him know. If it does, great. If it doesn't, oh well, just,
Is there any example of you doing that? Like,
well, I just think, I talk to Joey Batson a lot, and he expects us to be the best at what we do. And I think sometimes our fear of letting him down drives us to, because, let's be honest. I was at a graduation party a couple weeks ago, and my friend introduced me to one of his friends. He goes, "Oh, you get paid to do the job we'd all do for free."
mm-hmm.
So if I left tomorrow, there'd be 150 people wanting my job. So it's not out of fear. It's just, every now and again you have to stop and think, like, be appreciative of where you're at and what you're doing, and it could always be worse. So if you're having a bad day, somebody else having an even worse day than you.
Do you remember the first time not that you envision what's happening now, 2 national titles in 3 years and 55-4 record and all that, but was there a moment where you, I guess, were struck with the revelation, this guy is going to take this program to special heights?
I don't think there was any one aha moment, because, I still find it hard to believe that this is what we're in the middle of this.
Yeah.
And it's like we're always trying to get better. So at what point does it stop? Does it stop? You know, it's a blessing to be in this. You know, my kids I'm getting ready to have a 5th grader and an 8th grader, and they get to experience all this stuff too. You know, they get to go, they've been to 2 national championship games, and they're on the sideline celebrating when we win ACC championship games. And you got to stop and remember that this isn't how it is for 99% of the teams out there to go to 4 straight and win 4 straight ACCs and be at 4 straight CFPs. Like, it's a lot of work that goes into it from a lot of different people. And I don't think any of us that are in it take it for granted that, you know, this is hard to do. And we appreciate the opportunity that we get. And obviously, when you win the whole thing, it makes all that time that you're spending away from your family and, you know, all the long hours worth it. But, you know, the life experiences that I've had with my kids that, you know, their friends would love to trade spots with them.
During the game, one of your jobs is to make sure the head man has his towel and a cup of water, right?
Just kind of de facto job.
Are you intensely following the game, or are you looking at like
it's a little
uniform
of both.
things,
it's
malfunctions or whatever?
Yeah, I'm a little of both. Just trying to pay attention to what's going on, because if somebody's helmet comes off, you know, or somebody's cleat comes off, I'm running down there to figure out why it came off or help them retie their shoes so they don't have to take their gloves off and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully they only miss one play. And then, you know, especially like I said, at home games depending on how the game's going, last 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes of the game, trying to get my guys organized. Like, all right, you get on this, you know, start breaking down the O-line chairs or the defensive line chairs, depending on, you know, what's what in the game. Checking on the headsets, just, you know, it's just kind of, there's some times where I don't remember what happened.
Why?
Or I missed it or whatever. Just back in the back doing something. I'm like, what happened?
Any high profile things, events that you have missed for whatever reason? You haven't seen live?
I missed a couple touchdowns at Florida State this year.
Well,
I went inside real quick.
Most of us did too.
Yeah, I went inside real quick and I came back out and Amari had scored. I was like, how'd that happen? I was gone for like 2 minutes.
So has anything ever been stolen, like on the field? You mentioned that as a concern.
To date, I don't think we've lost a helmet, so that's always the biggest thing. Gatorade towels will get gone. You know, footballs, I'm sure, have gone missing.
The Hunter Renfro Tampa football, is that in safekeeping right now? Is that on display yet?
It's in my office.
It is. It's just sitting on a desk.
Sitting on back behind some other stuff.
Shouldn't that be like a?
Well, DJ's working on a CFP trophy case right now. So.
Interesting. So
it's got to be behind lock and key somewhere. So
okay, I just read this article. I don't know. I guess it was from a year and a half ago. I think Gene Sapikoff of the Post and Courier wrote a column about where is that football, because there was a rumor or something that one of the officials took it and gave it to one of his kids or something. And Tim Beret made it sound like super secret. It's in a super secret location and we can't talk about it. We can't tell anybody. So it's just sitting. That's the super secret location. Hope I don't cause any problems by giving that away. So when you got here in your Blazer in 1998, what was your first impression of a whole new? Did it feel like another planet?
Yeah, a little bit, because, you know, that last year I was at U of H was about the only year that we were good in my time there. And, you know, moving here, the scenery is a little different here than it is in El Paso, Texas. So we didn't have, at U of H, we didn't have, you know, men's soccer, women's soccer. there's a lot of sports here that we didn't necessarily have there. So I thought that was cool that, all that was here. Like, funny story, the year before I got married, I was dating Holly, and my brother got married, so she flew out to Texas. And I picked her up from the airport, and we live my mom's house about 20 minutes from the airport, and we're just driving. I-10 goes right through the middle of town. You go around the mountain, and she's not saying a word. I said, "What's wrong?" She goes, "Scenery here is a little different. Like, there's no trees. It's all desert and cactus and that kind of stuff." And she's like, "Scenery's a little different. It's not really what I'm used to." So move here, it's the same thing, Even from Houston, it's different here than it is in Houston, just because Houston is huge and a lot of concrete. So,
back to the helmets. What are each one of those worth?
It depends. So, there's one that came out a couple of years ago that's about $1,100. Most of them are in the $350 range, and there's a couple that are like $275 or about $250. So, most of what we're using is $350 to $1,100. So,
and you kept detailed records of the 18-wheelers going out to Dallas and then San Jose. How much? Any record of how much money they spent on fuel?
No, I didn't keep that, but I think we gave each truck $2,000, and then if they needed any more when we were out there. But I don't think we gave them any more. I can't. I'd have to ask Dooley.
Anything? I'm sure there's a lot we haven't talked about that's interesting, but anything that we haven't covered that I've missed?
I don't think so.
You got camp coming up.
Yes.
What's that like for you?
It's a lot of long hours. It's fun, but it's a lot of work. But it's another one of those things where best is the standard. So we have the best camps.
How many hours a week do you work during the season?
I don't even know. It's usually I get in after I get done with the Edwards car line. I usually get here about 8:15, and depending on the day, I usually leave till about 8:30 or so. So they're probably 12-hour days. Game day, depending on game times, at least that. And then usually Sunday's an off day unless we have a Thursday night game or something like that. But
so Sundays you're generally able to have a total day off.
Yeah, hang out with the kids and take a nap and
catch up.
Yeah.
How about like this time of year, late May?
Yeah, usually it's just a regular day, 8-hour day. Yeah,
5 o'clock.
Yeah,
you get to act like a normal human. Abe Reed, thank you so much for taking your time to enlighten on a lot of really interesting sort of behind the scenes stuff. We've had a few requests to have you on, so really appreciate you joining us.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks to Abe Reed for joining us. Really interesting behind the scenes stuff there. Really appreciate also the Abernathy Boutique Hotel hosting us for that conversation. Also, much thanks to the rest of our sponsors. Title sponsor, Parham Smith and Archenhold Law Firm in downtown Greenville. Also in Greenville, Tandem Payment. Over yonder in Anderson, Harris Flooring America. And Patrick Enzer and Uptown Realty of Sumter, the Eastern Midlands and PD area. Really appreciate the support of all of our sponsors, and particularly appreciate the support and loyalty of all y'all listeners for making this a part of y'all's routine. We'll be back next week. Everybody have a great weekend, and see you soon. Cheers.